the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. This evening, as we indicated, we would like to focus on virtues, first part, and second half of this will be in relationship to Socrates. Because the two are indispensably connected. Now, the word virtue comes from the Greek and Latin, which means excellence. Means an excellence. It can also mean, in another context, fulfillment. That is, it is an excellence or fulfillment of one's essence or one's being. It is a fulfillment of esse or essence. Hence, the virtues, as they relate to human beings, is an excellence as it relates to the fulfillment of one's being. In other words, virtue is to become a fulfilled, completed human being. Simply put, be your being. Okay? That's easy. And these virtues, the fulfillment of one's being, one's essence, your essence is that you are a human being, Homo sapien. Now, in that essence, as we are born, there is potential and actual. Okay? Now, obviously, it's clear that actual has more being than potential, right? If I say you have potential, it means you haven't actualized anything. So obviously it has more being. It has, look, the word being, okay, this is really not difficult. Being has to do with your what exists, existence. But we also know that there are degrees or levels by which something is actualized in a person. For example, this gentleman here may be excellent, an excellent carpenter. Excellent carpenter. So he is fulfilling the excellence of being a carpenter. Okay. Now, have you done any work as a carpenter?
No.
You have. Have you ever tacked a wall? Ever tacked a picture on a wall?
Oh, yes, I have.
Yes, you have. Would you consider yourself a carpenter?
I can saw too.
You can saw. Okay. Now, would you consider? Okay, but you're not good at it. Okay, but you are at the level of your competence. Okay. Now, some of you in here may go to this very nice lady because she appears to be nicer than him, which is probably true. But no, I'm shooting. But and I say, look, could you help me nail some things to the wall? And that may be very fine. Why? Because that's the scope of what I need. I need somebody to get up there and do that. Yeah, I don't need him because he's going to charge me an arm and a leg. Because not only isn't he nice, he's a gouger. Huh? He's looking to take my money. So okay, aren't you glad you came? Now, so you have all of that. Now, but I need a refurnishing and a refabrication and all this kind of stuff of a room in my house. I need something done. And there's going to be some intricate work. Well, as nice as this lady is, I'm not going to her because it's beyond her level, not because she can't do it. I didn't say she can't do it or she can't learn it. But that potential hasn't been realized because she hasn't had the formal training. She hasn't had the opportunity nor the occasion to do it. She hasn't had any need to do it. But this gentleman, this is his profession. This is what he does for a living, etc. So he has an excellence that she doesn't have. Does she have a competence? Yes, she's competent in sawing and she's competent in nailing pictures to the wall. That's fine. That's fine. See, now, think about it. This is where people get into trouble. They think that if they don't have an excellence, that somehow they're no good and they're not worth anything. No, no. That's why you have to step back and say, what is my level of competence, etc. In other words, very important, know your limits. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I can't do that. I don't know that. That's beyond me. You know, somehow we think we have to, fake it to make it. No, because you cause a lot of damage when you do that. It doesn't mean that. It's not a question of that. But this man has a skill. And that's what a virtue is. Virtue is a skill. And how do you acquire a skill? By practice. You have to practice. It requires a repetitive function of your being. Therefore, if we return to this gentleman, and let's say he does an excellent job on Jim's house. Does an excellent job for Jim. And I want to get my house, I have some repairs I need to be done, and because Jim reads at Mass, I think he's honest and trustworthy, and all of that. And so I ask him, and being a nice fellow that he is, he recommends him. So I go and get him, okay, because Jim recommended him, okay. He comes in and he does a terrible job. He does a terrible job, okay. Now, well, I'm not going to recommend him, except maybe to my enemy, okay, or something like that. But I'm not going to do that. Now, can I, on the basis of the experience of this person being excellent and this person being terrible, can I make a judgment on that? No. Why? I don't have enough sample. I don't have a sample. There may be all kind of reasons why it didn't turn out right. I had a bad day, or for whatever reason, I didn't. But there's 5, 10, 15 other people who say, oh man, he does great work. He does great work. Well, I'm more likely to do what? I'm more likely maybe to give him another chance, perhaps a smaller job, but I'm willing to do that. Therefore, the importance of practice is that it has to be repetitive. It has to be over time. A less complicated example is we go to the shooting gallery at the Coney Island or someplace like that. And, you give them a quarter and you shoot the ducks going by and all this kind of stuff like that. Okay? You probably can't do that anymore. But anyway, you shoot the ducks. You shoot former presidents. You don't shoot the ducks. So, so what happens is you get up there with your gun and you shoot. Boom. And you hit the stupid little duck going there. You say, wow, I'm a marksman. No, you're not a marksman. This is the first time, the lucky shot. No. I have 4 more or 5 more pellets in the air rifle, or whatever it is. And I shoot the other 5, and I mean people are running for cover, because I'm all over the place. Well, it's fair to say on the basis of that I probably am not a marksman, because I haven't repeated it enough. It was a quote-unquote lucky shot, was a lucky shot. So virtue is not on one act. Acts are important, but it's not, you got to have a sample. It has to be over time. I see this gentleman, and he has a nice watch. I don't know what it is. Might be a Timex. You got it from John Cameron Swayze. You see, oh, it is. It is. You see, okay, it's one of those cheapos. But let's say it's a real nice one. It's a nice watch there. And he leaves it here because he wants to see when I'm going to finally stop. So, but anyway, he leaves it here to torture himself. And he goes to the restroom. And when he goes to the restroom, I take the watch like this, and I'm ready to put it in my pocket. However, eagle-eyed Betty over there, okay, she sees me. So I go, oh, this is really a nice watch, and I put it back. I say, oh, well, see, I'm an honest person. No, you're not. You're a dishonest person. You're afraid of getting caught. So the mere act of being virtuous does not itself mean that a person is virtuous. There may be, I'm doing it because I need to put on a show. I need to have you think well of me. Or I need it for a job. And all of this other sort of stuff. There's a world of difference between your character and your reputation. Your reputation means absolutely nothing. Forget about that. Why? Because reputation is what other people think of you. Your character is what you are by yourself and before God. That's what it is. People can draw all kind of conclusions about you. All kind of conclusions, especially now. Supposing I read something about you on these god-awful computers that people are free to write anything they want about, unsigned, unvalidated, anything, I write it about them. Okay? I can do that. Okay? Now, and then that spreads. And then people say, oh, that's how that person is, and so on and so forth. Well, that becomes then your reputation, predicated upon a lie. But, all you can't lie to is yourself and to God. That you can't lie to. That's your character. And virtue has to do with character. And character is related to the Latin word cadre, meaning an engraving or an etching. Okay? Has to do with character. That's who and what you are to yourself, truthfully to yourself. It's not what others think you are, what others evaluate you as. That's your reputation. That's what people attribute to you. She's good, she's bad, she's hard to get along with, she's easy to get along with, he's fun to be with, he's an old stick in the mud, all of this kind of stuff. Well, he might be a stick in the mud because of what you want to do is either immoral or illegal, and I don't want any part of it. So I'm a stick in the mud. Yes, I'd rather be that than stuck in jail. So, see, we're so quick to go to people's reputation. I don't want to know that. And how do I know what your character is? I observe you. But I have to observe you over a period of time. You see, Aristotle says everyone is virtuous in their words and in their thoughts. The really virtuous person is only determined by their action. Simple. I go to the grocery store, Rouse's or wherever people go, I don't know. You go to the robber barons down here. And you go there, and you give the lady a $5 bill, and she gives you change for 20. She gives you change for 20. And you say, finders, sweepers, losers, weepers. Too bad. That's her problem. She made a mistake. You get in and you walk out. Okay? That's what you do. But all the while, you're claiming to be very honest. You're an honest person. You don't steal. You don't do anything like that. Well, that calls that into serious question. Calls it into serious question. But nobody saw it. I mean, the store will take care of it. They got insurance. I mean, big store like that, they're not going to miss it. That's all irrelevant. It's all irrelevant. You took something that is not your own. You took it. Nobody may have seen you. You saw yourself, and God saw you. That you can't fool. You may get the Kiwanis Award for being Citizen of the Year. It's bogus. It's bogus. It's empty. It's empty. Doesn't mean anything. You know? It's like somebody who in sports cheats, and you get the trophy. That trophy is a monument to the fact that you're a cheat, and you know absolutely nothing about sports, and you know nothing about the idea of what it means to win and achieve. So that thing, every time you look at it, should be a condemnation, not a congratulations of you. You see? So, character has to do with an engraving or etching. That's the meaning of the word, cadre. So, for example, when you go to the jeweler, and you say, to my lovely wife, whose name I cannot remember, but anyway, I am so devoted to you, or something like that. And it's engraved on the back of the thing like that, and so on and so forth. Well, that's a character. We used to talk about that with typing and stuff. How many characters is involved in the word, and so on and so forth. Boom, boom. It's an indelible thing. It's not a pencil or this or that. You say, is this an indelible ink? Meaning it cannot be erased, cannot be removed without destroying the thing. Okay, you get the idea. That's what character is. It's the permanent part of who you are in the fulfillment of your essence as a human being, as to either good or bad. Good or bad in terms of the fulfillment. Now, if we talked about degrees of fulfillment in terms of actual and potential, the goal or the task of the virtues is to help us acquire those skills that allow us over a lifetime to fulfill what? To fulfill our being. But we can only say that at the end of our life. Aristotle said one is only happy, one can only say one is happy as one is approaching the hour of their death. Because then they can look back over the whole of their life and pronounce it as fulfilling or not, and the degree to which you fulfilled it. And so when we say the Hail Mary, now and at the hour of our death, well, at the hour of our death, philosophically, you look back and say, did I live a fulfilling human life to the best of my capacity? Erik Erikson, the great psychiatrist of the last century, that's the last stage of human development, and he refers to it as the stage of integrity or the stage of regret. Do you look back over your life and you regret? You regret all the things that you didn't do, all the things that you left on the table, all the things unfulfilled. Or are you able to look back with a sense of integrity, a sense of wholeness, and say, no, my life was not perfect, but overall, I lived a good life. I lived a virtuous life. I tried my best to fulfill my humanity. And therefore, I lived a virtuous life. In other words, happiness. You know the goofy little song, happiness is different things to different people. That's what happiness is. No, it's not. The philosophers would say it most certainly is not. Happiness is the fulfillment of your being through the practice of the virtues. Through the happiness of the virtues. Hence, the philosophers can say, virtue is its own reward. No one recognized me. Did you recognize yourself? Did God recognize you? Here's your reward. Jesus says this in the scriptures. Do not let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, for your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. What's the problem with the Pharisees? Well, they go around wearing all their goods on them. And Jesus says, you've already had your reward. Everybody thinks you're wonderful. That's it. But somehow we always have to have a display. We have to be out there showing ourselves and all this kind of stuff. No. There's so many people that make the world better, and nobody even knows it. They don't run around always looking for the camera, the spotlight. They're not always celebrating themselves, all of this kind of stuff. They quietly hold the world together. Quietly hold the world together. Oh, but they're so underappreciated. They are wonderfully appreciated in something that can never be taken from them. They are appreciated by themselves, and to God. And to God. The satisfaction that comes from, I did the right thing. Oh, could I have used it for my advantage and I didn't? Yes, I could have, but I didn't. Why? Because I didn't think it was the right thing to do. Yes, that's its reward. You are fulfilling your humanity. You're becoming more and more of a human being than what you were meant to be. And these virtues are those skills, those practices that you learn very early. And Aristotle was of the belief that you had not learned them early, you will have a very difficult time after the age of 3. He said after the age of 3, it's very difficult to begin to learn these practices. Very difficult. In addition to that, the practice of the virtues must be done within a community that values the virtues. Contrary to that, if you're in a community that values vice, you will grow up living a life of vice, because that's what's honored. Therefore, one must always ask oneself, do my associations elevate me to virtue, or do they lead me to vice? Is the communities that I'm in, the people I hang with, or whatever, are those people leading me to fulfill my being as a human being, or are the people I'm bumming around with, are they really denigrating me? Oh, yeah, I understand we got the backslapping and everybody's, terrific and great and all that. But what are they doing to me as a human being? Am I really happy with myself? Happy with myself, and for the religious among you, am I really living as God intended me to live as a human being? If the answer is no, I don't care how much fellowship you have and how many awards and trophies and all this kind of stuff. It all means nothing. It means nothing. Because you are corrupting and decaying the very being that you were created to be, that you are, your human being, your humanity. So therefore, when I steal Maria's book, or I think this is a flower, whatever this is. Looks like it's dying here, but nonetheless, no, it's fine. And it's right here with the flag, of course, naturally. And it's all right there and everything, and I see it. And I take it. I steal it. I've not only hurt Marie, which I have. Above all, I've hurt myself. I've wounded myself. I got away with it. No, you didn't. No, you did not. You may never get caught. You may never go to jail. This poor person here for whom this is supposedly intended, which tells you something about what she thinks of Betty, but okay. Okay, so we have that. Uh, and no, I just didn't hurt her. This was also given to her as a present. So, see, well, I'm only hurting myself. No, you're not. I hurt her. I hurt her, and any enjoyment or meaning that this may have given to someone else, for example, such as her husband, for the occasion of this, etc. And the enjoyment that others may have for coming in and seeing it and saying, oh, look at that, that's beautiful, the way it is, a little small rose like that, it's so beautifully developed, and it's come out, wonderful, there's some buds, so on. None of that is possible. So this idea that somehow, you hear this a lot with this rugged individual liberalism. Well, I'm only hurting myself. Well, number one, is it all right just to hurt yourself? Do you think so little of yourself that, well, I know when I take this syringe and shove it in my arm with heroin, I'm only hurting myself, so bug off and mind your business and don't get your values on me. But it's not. It's all the people that went into getting this heroin or this fentanyl, whatever they have today, roaming all over the place, and all of that. You realize the chain that may start in China and then get shipped in various and sundry ways to Mexico or Latin America and makes its way here, and the families and the individuals and the lives and the society that it denigrates. So don't tell me about a person sitting out in their garage taking fentanyl that they're just hurting themselves. You got to be kidding. You got to be kidding. But in the modern context of that liberalism has flipped to, no one forced me to do it. I'm doing it. I know what I'm doing. All of this, and I take it, and I'm only hurting myself. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's a tremendous amount of social decay that takes place with that. There's a tremendous amount of people that are hurt. Take one of the most, if not the most, individual acts, suicide. I'm only hurting myself. Well, the person who commits suicide, for whatever reason, they don't have a funeral of one. They have a funeral of a whole bunch of people, many of whom now feel guilty. If only I had been a better parent. If only I had listened as a friend. Or this, all of these kind of recriminations then come into play. Did I cause it? Oh, you don't understand. You shouldn't feel that way because they only kill themselves. Forget about that. Of course we don't think that. Because this idea of, I just hurt myself and it's okay. Well, first of all, do you really think that it's okay to hurt yourself? Is that how much you value yourself? It's okay for me to take these fentanyls or whatever, or shove cocaine or whatever they do, sniff it or whatever they do, and shove it in your arm and all of this kind of stuff. But it's okay, because I'm only hurting me. Do you really hate yourself that much? And you think that's all right? My Lord. My Lord. What kind of defense is that? I'm only hurting me. Well, go home and tell your family that. Go home and tell your family when you got to go to court and you're arrested or you're in jail, or worse, your parents get a knock at 2 in the morning and it's the police and the coroner. Come identify your son in the morgue or your daughter. But he's only hurting himself. Really? Please, you can't be more myopic than that. You can't. But for many people, that's it. And don't give me your religion and value stuff. I know what I'm doing. That makes it even worse. If you really know what you're doing and you're doing it, what's your excuse then? What's your reason? If you know it and you're doing it, and I know I'm only hurting myself, you need help that ain't coming from the fentanyl. You need some deep help from that. because you're committing slow suicide. You're killing yourself softly and slowly. So, what kind of community are you embedded in? Where Aristotle says, where virtue is honored, you have virtuous people. Where vice is honored, you have people who are corrupt. And that's true. If you're in with the mafia, or you're in with some gang on the street, they're not honoring you for saying the rosary. They honor you for being tough, tattooed, you're a good earner, you're a good hitman, etc. Okay? Look, the gangs and these people, they have a code of ethics. Don't make any mistake about that. And it's rigidly enforced. Try to break it. They'll kill you. Or make you wish you hadn't broken it. Do they have a morality? Yes. Yes, they have a moral immorality. Yes, that's what they have. But they have a moral code stricter than any Catholicism could ever trot out. Believe me, the mafia. When you go to be made a made man, what you have to do is you go and they tell you you're going to be made, and you have to get dressed in your best clothes, and you go with the guy who first vouched for you. He's a friend of mine. He's a friend of mine. Now, if you say that, he's a friend of mine, and he's let a little bit deeper into the circle, what happens is you are responsible for him. Anything he does bad, we're coming to you, because you're the one who brought him in here. When he's one. So when you go and finally you get to be a made man, which means you have to be Sicilian on both sides of your parents. One side doesn't count. But if you're going to be a made man, and you have to be Sicilian, you have to trace it all the way back. Not just it's not like Elizabeth Warren, the Indian, the Pocahontas. She's an Indian because she claims to be so. I'd like to introduce her to John Wayne and see how long that would last. But okay. You got to be able to trace it back. And then when you go, finally, you take a vow. The vow of sacred omerta. Omerta is sacred silence. That is, you don't rat on your friends. You never talk to the police. And you never, ever discuss business. You never discuss business in the presence of not everyone who is a made person at the biggest level. You go there and you're all dressed, and you have to bring a holy card. You have to bring a picture of your saint. Every one of them has a patron saint, because these people did not have names like Tiffany and Wesley John and all of this kind of nonsense. Okay, Dominic, Enzio, Lorenzo, Tony, all of those kind of things. So you bring your little holy card with you. Bring your holy card, and when they get ready to give you or to welcome you in, and they say, "Do you understand that this is the life you have chosen? This is the life you have chosen, and you don't get out. It's harder to get out of the Catholic. It's easier to get out of the Catholic Church than it is to get out of the mafia, because usually if you get out either natural death or you get out looking like Swiss cheese in the back of a black Cadillac. So okay, you take the holy card, and the one who is administering this, and it can be, if they really want you, etc., it can be the Don or the Capio. You're not going to get the Capio de Capia, the captain of the captains. That's a big deal. But okay, you take the holy card and you put it in your hand like this, and you swear. You swear that you will remain forever faithful. You will not rat. You will not do any of those things. And then the holy card is then set on fire. Holy card is set on fire. It's put into your hand, and you take this hand and you put it over it, like that. And you keep it there until it's extinguished. And then you're a made man, which means you can't be whacked unless the capio gives the okay. You can't be. It has to go through. Either, if you're big up there, it has to go through the council or the commission, as they call it, 5 families in New York, and only then do you get it. But that's the initiation. That's the initiation enough. And there's it's rigidly enforced. Rigidly enforced, I might add. Okay. That's a community.
It's a community, all right.
That's a community.
Twice the-
Yes. You can say what you want about, well, believe me, holy omerta, holy silence, sacralum omerta is something that the last thing you want to be is a rat. No matter how long it takes, they'll do whatever it takes to get you. That happens. Okay. Virtues in a virtuous community, vice in a community of vice. That's what happens. That's what happens. And Aristotle says, and understand this, the virtues, hence, are what? They're social. They're social. Virtues are social. In other words, you need disclosure models. You need the disclosure models. Please understand, I did not say role models. I can't stand that word. A role is a sociological definition that's often made of putty, but you could stretch it and do whatever you want with it, especially nowadays. It's whatever it is. Disclosure model is a person who is able to reveal, by the way they live, the virtues in their life. And the community in which it should begin is not surprising, huh? Should be the family. There's one of the, the commercials today are, art mirrors life. Well, the commercials today, due to a large extent, mirror life. And they're some of the worst things imaginable, okay? But one of the worst, and I get angry every time it has to come on, and I have to flip the thing off because with little religion I have, I usually end up losing. And so it is the Progressive commercial, the Progressive insurance. And they have this dopey, know-it-all, arrogant, disgusting. Could you imagine if you're a woman coming home to him every day? Never. Huh? Jamie? Oh, that's his name, Jamie. You know who I'm talking about. Yes. And the goal is not to become like your parents. And he teaches a course on how to become not like your parents. Now, can you think of anything more disgusting than that in your entire life? Than that. But that's the message. And you go through this, and you learn how not to be. I wish I could be one half. Well, forget that. I'd like to be a tenth of the man my father was, and my mother, as a wife and mother and everything else was. And I understand. Look, hey, I get it. There's all kind of people who have terrible families. I get all of that. But can we get over this idea of judging the proper function of something by its failure? Name me one thing that human beings do that doesn't fail. You can't. So therefore, don't do anything. Are there priests that abuse and are scandalous? Please, Ray Charles could see that. Yes, the answer is yes. Are there lawyers that are shysters? Yes. Are there doctors that are quacks? Yes. Are there bank people and finance people that embezzle? And so, yes. Go through the whole list of things. Go through all of them. Well, on the basis of saying that family was terrible, therefore family life is bad. It's hierarchical. It's patriarchal. It's demeaning to women. Look at the abuse that takes place. Marriage is another thing that's no good, because after all, we do have spouses abusing one another. So therefore, marriage is no good. Well, tell me what. Well, then, what qualifies for you to do anything if that's your criteria? The abuse of something is no argument against its proper use. Because then you would do people misuse alcohol? Yes. But therefore you can't have a social drink? That's absurd. There are people who misuse food. They're gluttonous, etc. So don't eat. Of course that's absurd. But that's the absurdity, of that. That's the absurdity of that. I had a man recently come to me. Well, really, I was walking down the street, minding my own business, as I always do. I'm one of these. Minding my own business. And he says, "Oh, hi." I said, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, he used to come to church, not here. He was in California, all the time, about a year ago, all the time. And I haven't been seeing him for a while. So I said, "Oh, you've been away? You haven't been, I missed you at May. I haven't been seeing you." He said, "No." He said, "I've been, my faith and I are not, my Catholicism, we're not together anymore. This and that." So he said, "I'm having real trouble with all that." I said, "Oh." I said, "Is there any particular reason why?" No. And he says, "Yeah." He says, "I can't take all this sex abuse scandal. The more I see coming out and everything, I can't go. I can't go. I just can't go." I said, "Well, I could understand. I understand that." I said, "I understand that. That could really cause problems. On the face of it. People you trust, and especially children and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that's not like you stole a quarter from the sodality. That's a big thing." I said, "If I'm not mistaken, you're a lawyer, aren't you?" He says, "Yeah, I'm a lawyer." I said, "Oh." I said, I read the other day that a couple of lawyers in Riverside County were convicted for, they were involved in an insurance scam, paybacks, and all of this kind of stuff, without all the details. I said, "So I take it you're not practicing law anymore?" He says, What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what are you doing now for a living?" He says, "Father, are you all right?" I said, I think so." I said, "I'm having trouble squaring the circle." I said, "You're having trouble, or you've distanced yourself from the Catholic Church because they're a priest." Not all priests, by the way. A very small number of the percentages. Now you have to quickly add, one is too many. Because somehow people believe that somehow now you're trying to legitimate it. That's where we are. Because why? Because people want to believe that. Okay, but so you got to say it. And you stop coming, what you're telling me is you stop coming to church, stop receiving the sacraments, you're having trouble with Catholicism because of these priests. Do you condone lawyers in cahoots with insurance people? Well, no. Oh. Do you think that makes the law profession and these lawyers look good? Well, no. I said, so when I say, what are you doing now for a living, I don't understand why that seems to stun you or make you perplexed. I'm only following the standard that you're applying to your faith, to your profession. Well, it's different. I said, yeah, well, I know it's different. I said, because your faith is infinitely more important than your profession, unless your faith happens to be what you're professing. And, but anyway. And so the point, of course, being that if you're going to do that to everything in life, you're going to have a very short time on earth because there's nothing you're going to do. I mean, as soon as you breathe, you're ready to die. Because everybody who's going to handle you from the time of conception on is a human being, flawed, and therefore you're not going to make it. It's not possible. And that's this kind of zero-sum kind of thinking, etc. We need these disclosure models, but understanding that a disclosure model, again, through the categories of potential and actual, are there some communities that actualize virtue more than others? Yes. There are also some communities that emphasize different kinds of virtues. For example, some churches and some parishes are big into social outreach. Beautiful. That's what they see their focus as, because maybe the population around them is such that they need that, or they have an abundance of stuff that they can help others. All of that kind of, nothing in the world. Beautiful. You may have another parish that's big on liturgical celebrations. All of this kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that by any stretch of the imagination. Some are into education. Some are in home visitation. Whatever it is. But each of those are disclosing or are revealing what you can follow and practice in order to fulfill that part of your humanity. That is, it's not simply something you make up. See, these virtues, okay, we'll finally get to them now. Well, what are the virtues? Cardinal virtues are 4. Cardinal virtues are also referred to as acquired virtues. Why acquired? Because you get them through practice. You get them through modeling those disclosure models. So therefore, if I want to learn how to play tennis, I try to find the best person to teach me and to show me how to play tennis. That person is a disclosure model. The way they play the game, their temperament on the court, their approach, whatever it is, their techniques of playing tennis, etc. So I go to that person. And what do? I take lessons. And what is a lesson? A lesson is a practice session. You learn that skill, the forehand, the backhand, the overhead, the serve, the volley, whatever it is, whatever you happen to want to learn. And You do that. And you may start out doing that in what? In segments. We're going to work on the serve today. Okay, that's what you do. Then further lessons is your ground strokes, forehand, backhand, net play, volleys, etc., overheads, all of those things. And then, as you're doing that, the instructor will then slowly integrate them together so that you now have a tennis game. Playing tennis involves more than serving the ball. You have to know how to return the serve. Where do you stand? What angles? You have to learn strategy. You have to learn all of those kinds of things. But the more you put them together, the more integrated and holistic your game is. If, for example, all you have, and many people, if they're right-handed or left-handed, it doesn't matter, they have a forehand, and they have a weak backhand for some reason. They have a weak backhand. So what do they want to do? They want to do what's called run around the backhand. So you run around so you get in position to hit it. And up to a certain level, that'll work. Up to a certain level of competition. If you're good enough to run and get over there, that's fine. There's only one problem. As you further advance up the ladder, you're going to play people where you're not going to be able to run around your backhand because they're going to hit it too hard. They're going to hit it to angles. They're going to do all of that. So to do this, and then to get over here, set your feet, and then do this, okay, yes, that's fine. Except now you're stepping up in class, and it ain't working. Why? You have neglected working on your weaknesses. Great athletes always work on what is weak. One best example I can give you is one of the great tennis players of all time, Steffi Graf. Steffi Graf was 17 years old when she played in the finals of the U.S. Open, and her opponent was Martina Navratilova. Okay, and everybody was over Steffi Graf. 17 years old. Okay. Against this Wimbledon champion, U.S. Open champion, one of the greatest of all this kind of stuff. Okay. The match went 3 sets. 3 sets. And she lost 6-4 in the third set. Steffi Graf. Why? She hit a slice backhand instead of driving through it. Or she didn't develop the slice enough, and she didn't come over because she had a one-hander. She had a one-handed one, like that. Not like Chris Evans, like this. And when they got to the net, because everybody was saying, oh, how wonderful she is, how great she played, all of this kind of stuff. When Steffi Graf got to the net, you know where you shake hands and all of this kind of stuff. So it went to shake hands. So Martina put her hand out, and Steffi went like that and walked off. And I told my brother, there's a future champion. Everybody was saying how wonderful she was. She was so furious because that was her weakness. And Martina, a seasoned veteran, knew that's how you beat her. She wasn't going to beat her on the forehand. Her nickname was Fräulein Forehand. That's how hard she hit the ball. She was German, obviously. And so that summer, that fall, well, U.S. Open's at the end, last of the Grand Slams. So that winter, going into the summer, which begins with the Australian, she worked every day on her backhand. Every day on her backhand. And when the Australian came around, and the players remember, oh, Steffi is good, but her weakness is the backhand. No, it ain't. Very simple reason. She worked on her weakness. She worked on her weakness. Steffi Graf is the only tennis player in history to win the Grand Slam in the same year and the gold Olympic medal. The only one. The only one. The only one to win 2 Grand Slams in the same year. I mean, 2 Grand Slams, in both of which in the same calendar year, is Rod Laver, one of the great tennis players of all time, Australian, greatest of all time. And you have, but how did they get there? Rod Laver's left-handed, the Rocket, that's what they call him, Rocket Rod Laver. His left-hand arm here is about that big. Compare. Why? From this, one of the great backhands and serves, from doing this, from doing this, from doing this. Why? He had a weak backhand, and nobody would believe it if you looked at him, say, in the mid-60s. No. But you didn't see him when he was 17 and 18. Steffi Graf, and one of the greatest of all time, playing, because she said, I'm going to get somebody who's going to show me how to slice, how to come over the ball, how to do that, and that is my number one priority. Yes, I can win a whole bunch of matches with my forehand, but I'll never be a champion. I'll never be a champion. And she was not satisfied with this. Oh, great job, wonderful, oh, terrific, that was wonderful. Oh, man, that's, I don't want to know that. I don't want to know that. I know what I got to work on. And in typical German fashion, she went and worked on it, And that's not a slight, by the way. If we had a little more of that, it would be better. But anyway. So these are required. The first of them is prudence. Now, I asked you to read the Catechism and all that, and you see what it says there. And you can look at it. They call them the human virtues. And prudence, 1806, 1806, prudence. Give you a big long thing there, and I'm going to give you something much shorter, which probably won't satisfy you, but that's okay. 1806 is the number. Prudence is the virtue that disposes practical reason. Now, everybody okay there? Oh, I thought she was passing out. Okay. I'm coming to the end, Marie. Don't worry. I'm watching. Don't worry. She wants to get home to see Trump. I know that. Okay. So the practical reason for the philosophers, the classical and medieval philosophers, there is practical reason and theoretical. Theoretical reason. Practical reason is the realm of ethics and morality, because as it says, it is the actions by which one achieves a goal. Practical. That's easy enough, huh? Practical. He's a practical person. He's a theoretical person, which we tend then to just say, oh, yeah, he's up there somewhere, up in the corner. Theoretical is a metaphysical. It is a person who deals with ideas. Ideas have consequences, huh? Victor Hugo said that there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And that's very true. I have one of those things. I used to have a lozenge. I'm sorry, I don't have one. I gave it to somebody in church. Shouldn't have given it to him. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You need some water? You want some water? Are you okay? All right. That idea there, practical. It is that which drives action to achieve a goal, etc. So, obviously, prudence is a practical. It's an exercise of practical reason. Okay, it is the first of the cardinal virtues, because it is the virtue without which you cannot have any other of the cardinal virtues. Now, say, well, why is that? Why can't I have justice without being prudent? Why can't I have courage? Or the better word there is fortitude. Why can't I have fortitude? Well, let's take the example of courage or fortitude. See, virtue for Aristotle and the Greek philosophers and the medieval theologians and philosophers, it is what's called the golden mean. The golden mean. Now, what is a mean in mathematics? Average. It's in the middle. Crudely put, virtue is in the middle. It's in the middle of what? It's in the middle of deficiency and excess. Okay? That's easy. Deficiency and excess. It's in between that. Not too much, not too little. That's easy. Let's take the virtue of fortitude, of courage. We can understand courage as the ability to delay gratification in the short term in order to achieve greater long-term, lasting, and higher order goals. That's easy. That's easy. That's what it is. And it is a self-discipline enabled to delay gratification in order to achieve greater long-term or lasting goals. Okay, that's what courage is. To give you an example before I get to the one of excess, etc. But I can use that as well. The example is you are, this might be stretching you, you are studying for an exam, okay? And it's the final exam, and you need the exam, you need to pass in order to graduate and move on with your life, your career, and all this other kind of stuff. It's a licensing exam, whatever you want to call it. Make up your mind, doesn't matter. And you got all your books, and you're there, and you're going to hunker down because you're taking it tomorrow, so you want to do this review. And as you're sitting in your room, and you've got all your stuff there, and you're ready, you knock at the door. And here's some of your best buds. And they say, hey, Dave, come on with us. We're going to the show, then we're going to go get a few beers, and we're going to have a good time. Come on. Okay. Dave sits there, and he's thinking. Say, what do I do? Is there anything wrong with going with your best friends? No. No. In and of itself, there is no wrong with that. In fact, that's a good. That's a good, to be with your good friends. Nothing wrong with that. Okay? Granted, there's some Catholics who are afraid that somewhere somebody's having a good time. I understand that. But no, that's a good thing. Is there anything wrong with going to a show or no, not in and of itself. Nothing wrong with that. Pleasurable, entertainment, relaxation. We're going to go have a few beers. Nothing wrong with that. And we're going to go maybe to a club or something like that. Yep. All of those are good things. All of those are good things. However, I have this exam so the person says, I can't go tonight. I have to sit here and I want to get everything organized in my mind because I have the exam tomorrow. Okay? That person is exercising prudential judgment related to courage. Related to courage. That is, I can go tomorrow night or this weekend and have a show, a play, a beer, this and that. I am not saying that those things are bad. This is not a question, see, this is another thing. It's not a question of good and evil. All these people run around, everything is good and evil. Well, I'm sorry, folks. Life is a little more complicated than black and white and all this other kind of stuff. There are the idea of a hierarchy of goods. The hierarchy of goods. There's nothing wrong with those things I just said, your friend. They didn't come so that you would fail. They wanted to include you, which is good. All of these are goods. But the greater good, the more lasting good, the more long-term good, is not this, because these things will quickly pass. There will be another night for another show, for another couple of years, for another group, all of those things. But you've spent all this time studying, all these years. Parents and everybody has invested in you, etc. And this is going to last you a lifetime. Your skill, your practice, whatever it is. This I can always do tomorrow night if you want. Not tonight. But that takes a delay. I have to be willing to say no to that with the idea I can do it another time. There's always another bus coming. But I may not be able to take this again for another 6 months, maybe another year. I don't know, whatever the requirement is. And the professor may say, you can't retake the test. No, you get one bite at the apple. That's it. So, you are practicing the virtue. Now, to be more specific, take fortitude. Or courage. And apply it to this. What is the deficiency of fortitude? It's cowardice. Cowardice is the deficiency. You're a soldier. You've been well trained, prepared, etc. You're in this particular element, and the lieutenant or the captain or whatever says, look, we're going to go into this, and there might be a firefight, etc. You have to be ready, prepared, make sure you're fully armed, and all this kind of stuff. And you say, oh, Jesus, I didn't really think this was really going to happen. I'm not feeling well. I feel COVID coming on, you know. Granted, I look like a pincushion. I've had so many COVID shots, which probably has given me something else. But nonetheless, no, I can't. Now, I don't have COVID any more than the man in the moon, okay? Or I don't have a stomach ache or whatever. I don't even none of that kind. That's cowardice. Am I afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Only a fool would not be. Of course I'm concerned. I'm nervous. I'm all those things. But the courageous person fights through that. What is the excess? The excess is rashness, rash judgment. I got a platoon of guys here, let's say 50 guys, and over that ridge, there's a bunch of Afghanistans or whatever, Iranians or whatever, and they got about 2,000. Well, let's charge them and show them what the Marines are made of. Are you crazy? No, I'm not going to do that. What am I going to do? I'm going to call back and see if I can get reinforcements. Am I going to have air cover? Am I going to do that? I'm not going to risk my men in this kind of thing. This is not going to be another Pickett's charge. Okay? It's not going to be that. Notice I'm in the middle. That's where virtue is. Which would be a wonderful thing for people today to realize, wouldn't it? Take, for example, I talk. Our talk today is so inflamed and so polarizing and everything. And as soon as somebody says, well, why don't we moderate this and let's see if we can meet in the middle. You're not a true believer. You're one of those Paisley types. No, you're either with me or against me. And you see what happens with enough hate speech. You want to talk about hate speech? Want to talk about hate speech? Well, go back and play the tape from Saturday. Tell me about hate speech and its effects. Please spare me that. No. And that's what happens. It gains critical mass, you see. And you have this kind of environment today. There is no golden mean or moderation. I'm either all blue or all red. And they love to quote. Jesus said, do not be lukewarm or I'll vomit you from my mouth. It's the only thing they know. It's the only thing they know. It's amazing. But also remember that when they came to the town, Samaritan town, that told Jesus, get lost, we're not welcoming you, get out of here. James and John said what? Oh, Jesus, let's call down from heaven and nuke them, you know. Yeah, that's what we want. St. Luke tells us, and Jesus rebuked them. Rebuked them. No. And what did he do? He moved on to the next town. So Jesus is soft on sin. By standards today, oh yes, yes, yes. See, Jesus was just a prototypical Jesuit, that's all. You know, he was just ahead of his time, that's all. Oh, God, I mean, the stuff today is just amazing. No, Jesus rebukes them. No. The wheat and the tares. Enemy goes around and plants the weeds in the person's garden, field, for the harvest. And what happens? Whoop, they spring up, and what do you have? You have the wheat and the tares. Wheat and the weeds, whatever you want to call it. And the guys who's in charge, they say to the landowner, well, let's pull them up. And the landowner says, no, we're not going to do that. Because if you pull up the good ones, the bad ones, you're going to pull up the good ones with them. Because they're entangled. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. Let them grow up together. And then we can separate them. But we're not going to do that now. We're going to let them grow and develop. On a deeper theological level, why would Jesus extol this as something good? Because, see, growing up together, there's also the possibility that the weeds might actually become wheat when we deal with human beings. It is possible that a good person can be of such an influence on a weed that they actually become wheat. But if we go around and yanking them up together, we lose both. We lose both. So sometimes tolerance, much overused, I get that, yes. Tolerance does not mean indifference. Tolerance means I'm strong enough in my own convictions that I allow you to give your best presentation of what you believe, and I'm not threatened. I don't want to censor you. I don't want to silence you, because I believe that I have the better argument. And it's not an argument with a gun. It's an argument with a logical, clear presentation. And so therefore I'm not threatened by it. So the tolerant person does not want to censor, does not want to shut people down. You got some of the goofiest shows on the air, these so-called news channels on. Some of the ones that I totally and completely disagree with. Oh, they ought to be closed down. Oh, no, they shouldn't. No, they shouldn't. I don't want to censor them. I want them to be able to say what they have to say, because I also believe that there are shows that counterbalance that. And besides, I think the more they talk, the better my argument looks. And I don't want anybody censoring, like when they took former President Trump off of the stupid thing that, what is it, tweeting, what is it? Social media stuff. So goofy. Anyway, took him off. That's horrendous. I was opposed to that. I'm opposed to taking, I'm not talking about people who are inciting violence, and I'm not talking about any of that stuff. Let's just be clear. I'm talking about you don't like their political view, so we have to silence them. No. I don't want it done to those who may favor my position, and I don't want it done to your position. That's the basis of a free democratic society, that we have the ability to exchange ideas and people make that evaluation. Uh, I find very suspect the idea of moral equivalency. Moral equivalency. They did it, so we do it. Or somehow the terrible slaughter of the Jews in the Gaza, what was it, several months ago, when they killed all those Jews in that Hamas attack and so on and so forth. And to claim that Hamas and all of that are just fighting for justice and freedom fighters and all of this kind of stuff, and that the Jews are not doing anything different in Gaza than they did, and so on and so forth. And you see, they're all the same. No, they're not. No, they're not by the length of the Pontchartrain Bridge plus infinitely more. They're not the same. It's this moral equivalency that somehow it cancels it out. No, I don't remember the Jews going in there, killing their people, men, women, and children, with all this aggression and all of this kind of stuff. No, and these people have one thing in mind: to exterminate Jews, to exterminate people on the basis of nothing more than they happen to be Jewish. Well, I mean, and that's a moral equivalency. It's absurd. So the golden mean is in the middle of these things. Prudence is what we can call uncommon common sense. The best example I can give you of prudence is, what is the prudent person? I'm going to use, I hate to use it, but I am, because I'm going to lose half of you. But anyway, the guard in basketball, a guard in basketball, okay? The guard in basketball is supposed to be the one who acts basically like a quarterback. Their job is to get the ball and to maneuver the game so that the team, your team, has the best opportunity to score. Not that you necessarily will. It's to put you in that position. So what do they have to do? They have to make snap decisions like that on the basis of the flow of the game. They can't go, wait, time out. Look, could you move over here just a little bit so then I could throw the ball there? That's not life. You can't call time out to life. Prudence is the ability to make good, sound judgment in the particularity of the flow of everyday life. And Aristotle said, prudence of a practical reason. This is not something that you learn. It's not theoretical. Some people are born prudent and some people are imprudent. There are some people that, look, they're not evil, they're not mean, they're just imprudent. Example, I may tell you something in private, and I don't go through the whole harangue about, please don't say this to anybody, because as soon as I say that, it'll be all over the place. You know that, huh? Telephone, telegraph, teleparishioner. Okay. And above all, tell them, whatever you do, don't repeat it. Oh, my God. That's the clear signal. It's all over the world. You know, they might as well skywrite it and be done with the thing, all right? So, all right. Now, that person, not being malicious, they go and say, oh, do you know what so-and-so told me? And you go, what is wrong with you? How can you be so stupid? No, they're not stupid. They're imprudent. There are people who just do not exercise good judgment. They're not bad. They're not evil. They're not malicious. They're none of these things. They lack good common sense judgment. That's all. And so with them, you have to be very cautious and very careful, because you can't trust their judgment in the practicality of things in life. That's all. And so you don't ask them. You're not mean. You're not, whatever. They just don't have it. And therefore, prudence, you can't have fortitude without prudence. Because a person who cannot exercise good judgment will either have a platoon of cowards or a dead platoon. That's what you'll have, without the golden mean. Prudence is the virtue of the golden mean. It's applying it. Temperance. Temperance is understood as balance. It's fine-tuning. You ever go, like, to the symphony or something like this? No, let's take it away from symphony. You go to a band concert or something like that, and you get there ahead of time, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And what do you see? Especially the strings. You can have a great band, some beautiful songs that people can actually understand the words. And you have the violin people and so on and so forth. And what are they doing? Yeah, they're doing this, and they're turning this. And what are they doing? They're getting the right balance, the right tone. They don't just pick up the instrument and start doing this. Temperance is fine-tuning, okay, so that your strings are not too tight or too loose, like in tennis, or racket sport. What pounds do you want to string your racket? 60, 65? Do you like a more trampoline effect, so you may put it down in the mid-50s? And when you get the effect, the ball goes further, but you give up placement. You give up those things, and so on. The same thing is true with the soul. Temperance is fine-tuning those aspects of your intellect and especially the will, so that you do not become a fanatic, or you do not become a person of laxity. I don't really care. I'm indifferent. You can't have strings that are too loose, because then you fall into apathy, apathos, without any commitment or involvement. Too tight string, and you know what happens. You become a fanatic, or you burst. You have a breakdown or something. That's what happens. So, again, temperance is that ability to fine-tune yourself to where you're living a balanced kind of life. You're not so high-strung, as we say. We even use that expression. Nor are you so laid back that you couldn't possibly play the instrument. The strings are too loose. You don't get anything out of it. Nothing out of it. So that's what temperance is. And justice. Justice is rendering to he and her what is their due, D-U-E, what is due them. That is just. What is owed to a person that they have a right to. They have a right to. And that right can be a natural right, it can be a legal right, or what we call, it can be, to make it simple, there's two kinds of rights, Natural rights, which are rights that come by the fact that you are a human being, given you by God. And then you have legal and civil rights. Those are the ones granted by the law, the society, the appropriate authorities in the state. This is sometimes referred to as positive law. in legal terms, jurisprudence, legislative and civil rights are called positive laws. They're man-made laws. People make it. Men and women make it in the legislative process. Okay? And so you do that. Now, the idea that floats around, even if you never went to law school, I'm talking about the law school of living in this society today. The idea of justice is equal treatment. That is, justice is equivalent to sameness. Justice is equivalent to sameness. And in one of the classes I had in law school, and I usually like to limit the class to 10 people. I had 2 students in the seminar, 2 of them, both of whom had handicaps. One was born at birth with a foot and leg deficiency. Okay? The other one had a eye impediment. Okay, the vision, so on and so forth. Now, and so I said, how many people agree with the idea that justice is equal treatment? You know, like seals at the San Diego Zoo and feeding time, you know. Really? I said, so-and-so. I see that in the back of the room and in the entrance and exit here, there is a sign there that says, there's a ramp that says reserved, please keep clear for those who have special needs. I don't have that need. Am I being treated unfairly? Why?
Because you don't have an impediment.
But they do. And why, but why should they get a special need? But it's not the same. The fact that they have one, they are getting treated in a special way. They're getting treated in a special way. The Special Olympics. All of that. How is that just? If justice, justice is sameness. If justice is sameness, you're making an accommodation for this person that I don't have. Why do I have to restrict myself from walking up this ramp? And this person who has this eye impediment, they have to be allowed to sit in the front. And wouldn't another student like to sit in the front? Or if they sat there and they were told to move because this is reserved for them, would that be treating them the same? They want to sit in the front. But I said,
Give them the opportunity to enjoy the same thing.
but so in effect, then you're saying is that it's an injustice to treat it's justice or it's an injustice. Which is it? To treat unequals equally. Well, no. Stay with this.
It's not injustice to person without impediment, but
Who's at a loss?
that are already have impediments.
Why do I have to make an accommodation for them?
Because I'm a good person.
But why do I have to live by your notion of goodness? You want to feel good about yourself? That's fine. That's fine. But don't go throwing that on me. I don't care about your feeling good. I don't care about it. It's your problem. I'm not responsible for your leg or your eye or anything like that. Why? I don't understand that. Why this person is being treated differently. And we say that justice is sameness. But they're not being treated the same. The balance is not balanced for me. I don't understand that. What do you mean balanced? Might be balanced for them. It's not balanced for me. Remember a few years ago, maybe you don't follow this. I don't blame you. Several, it might have been longer than that. This guy was a professional golfer, and he wanted a golf cart. And the rules of the golf is that you have to walk the course. But they made allowances for him under the Disabilities Act that he could ride around. I was vehemently opposed to that. Sorry. Because walking is integral to the game. It's an integral part of the game. You got to walk 18 holes. They've already made a concession that you can have a caddy, but the walking is integral to the game. It's integral to the game. Now they say, well, no, we're going to change it, and we're now going to supply a cart to this person. Well, if you remember, then they came with baseball. And the guy's name was Abbott. Pitched for the California Angels at the time. And he was a left-handed pitcher, and this particular hand, this was impaired. He was shortened, he like this. But he was a fine pitcher. And there were those who wanted to forbid batters from bunting because he would have to get off the mound, put the glove under here, get the ball, and it was an unfair thing. And you want to change the rules and say, if he's pitching and you're batting, you can't bunt the ball, even though I have runners on second and third, and that would help me win the game, and I'm a professional athlete. Is that okay? Is that okay if I forbid? If it's okay if I forbid anybody from bunting when he's pitching, but when he's not pitching, everybody gets to bunt or do whatever they want. Is that fair? What about the person who's on the golf course? And part of that is I got to walk the 18 holes, and I'm chugging along and I'm huffing and puffing and all this kind of stuff, etc. And this guy's breezing by in his golf cart. And he's as fresh on the 18th hole as I was on the first hole. Is that an unfair advantage? That's all I'm asking. What are we really doing here? You all have said, now before you begin to report me to the SPCA Inhumane Society and all this other kind of stuff, okay, and get all the letters flooding into the office over there, that I'm another Dr. Kevorkian, and all of this kind of stuff. Is there something wrong with the definition? Remember I said from the beginning, you have to examine your definition. And I said to you that the definition of justice is treating everyone the same. And therefore, it is incumbent upon society to do what? In your view?
I think you can accommodate where you can.
So it's accommodation. It's accommodation. Okay? What virtue?
The justice, somebody that's not the same as you, to give them an equal right.
Is there something that transcends justice? Related to justice, but transcends justice. What word did you use? Accommodation. What accommodation is a wonderful word. What does it reveal? What virtue? No. What, I said something beyond all of this. So it's not on the board. What is the word? What is the word? That you're, in other words, if I make this accommodation that Miss Betty, bleeding heart that she is, wants to have done for everyone, my question now is, what are you appealing to? Okay. Well, God. Pardon me? But I'm not giving equal treatment, and I'm not treating because I'm accommodating and recognizing the difference. I'm accommodating. In order to accommodate, I had to recognize a difference. So am I treating them the same? No. So on what basis am I allowed, while still being justice, to treat those who are not the same as if they were the same? On what basis am I doing that? Close. The word is beneficence. The beneficent person. Yes, beneficence. Yes, yeah. The society, the community, in its what? In its civil and legal, its positive law, does what? Now, chime in. Accommodates. Why? Because it values what other virtue? If I'm accommodating them, I'm doing what? No. So therefore, what am I doing in terms of community? What am I doing to them?
I'm giving them an equal chance to play with the sport.
So what is the word? It's a big word today that everybody hates. No.
You
Yeah.
know, some have more, some have less, and so you try to level the playing field.
You?
I know I'm not using
Yeah.
the right word.
No. You're inclusive. You're including them, huh?
Yes.
I'm sure you heard the word now. Diversity, including, equity. My God, we're choking on it. Okay, well, here's, again, all this is abstract, but it's as abstract as your latest regulations that you get if you own a business or anything. So, don't give me that stuff about, oh, this is so abstract. No, it's not. It's played out every day in front of you. It's played out every day. So when society says, we're going to make these accommodations in order to be inclusive, to bring these people in, etc., we are doing what? What are we doing as a society? What are we doing as a society? Well, yeah, okay, well, what does that mean? Do we have anything other than playing the levy, than that, No, it's not, no, we don't want to say more fair. More fair is not a comparison, either you're fair or not. So, okay. So fair. We're being fair. Fair is a kissing cousin of what? It's on the board, folks. It's a kissing cousin of what virtue? Justice. Of justice. You want to give them their due. Okay, well, what is their due? Do they have a right to participate? do they have a right to participate? Yes, yes, they do. We're not eliminating their right. We're saying that they have a natural right to participate that is open to everyone, and the society has recognized that natural right, which we want reflected in the positive or the legal civil law. That's what we're doing. Does every society do this? No. Why do we do it?
Because it's the right thing to do.
We think it is the right thing to do. Yes, yes. And so, are we being unjust? Are we being unjust? Because the person will say, you're treating unequals equally. But you're not really treating them equally, because you're making all these accommodations and inclusiveness by you types. Am I being unjust? Am I being unjust? No, why? I agree with you, but why?
It's what we've been raised to do the right thing and to be better people.
By whose standards, by the way?
By my mom and dad.
I see. So in other words, your mother's standards of right and wrong should be universalized, so that every human being, and those who don't have those standards, they're wrong and unjust. So your mother's ethic can be universalized for everyone, so that those who do not follow it, they would in fact be unjust.
In my mother's world, that would be.
No, I'm asking you to universalize it.
That's sticky with it.
Can you do that? I don't know. I don't know your mother. Yes, exactly. Isn't it it's a wonderful place to be. Yeah. Well, you see. Well, you see. Well, exactly. You see that. You see. Yeah, you see. What and that's the Socratic method. Was anyone wrong? No. It's not about right and wrong. Good answer, bad answer. No, it's not about that. It's about bringing us together. So we've got to the idea of a natural rights in play here, the right to be included in things that are open to others. Society has made a prudential judgment in its civil and positive law, okay, that as a society we think that this would be the right thing to do, okay, for these individuals. We do not buy the idea that an injustice takes place when we treat unequals equally. We're saying we don't believe that. We believe that you can treat unequals equally with others, okay? Because the accommodation does not affect what? What does the accommodation not affect? The outcome. The outcome. I am giving the preference or the accommodation where? How? Where in the process? From the beginning. From the beginning. I'm only guaranteeing you, okay, you got your eye problem. I am guaranteeing you the opportunity to sit in this class, to take those notes, do that, but you are not getting points because you have an eye problem. Sorry, that ain't happening. You got the opportunity now. Okay, that's correct. And that anything beyond that is really questionable. Okay? So, you see, so we've come to that point in that. And our society is saying, prudentially, that in making that judgment, we think we will be a better society. We think we will have a better citizenry. we think that it advances the common good by doing that. And also, by the way, people have to make sacrifices in order to obtain virtue. See, we want it convenient, nice and free, clean. Yeah, I just do it. Yeah, man, que pasa? No problem. Yeah, San Diego state of mind. It's okay. No. Um, virtue is difficult. Virtue takes discipline. It takes effort. You see, we want easy virtue. Automatically, you don't have no clue what virtue is. You have no clue what virtue is. If you're going to be a virtuous ball player, you spend a long time practicing and denying yourself a lot of things in order to be a really good ball player. You want to be a good student? I used to have students say, "Oh, I want to go to Harvard." Oh, okay. What's your grade point average? 2.0. I said, where do you want to go? I'm sorry. What was that? Harvard. Okay. And what makes you think you're going to get there? Because I want to go. Have you talked to Jiminy Cricket recently? Anyway. So these are, we're going to stop. These are the acquired virtues. And you can take things in society, put them up here, and run it through here in order to arrive at some degree of consensus. Now, the next phase would be, we're not going to do it, the next phase is everybody would put these things together in some fashion and then come back, let's say next week, with objections, strengths, counter-proposals, etc. And then the process would continue until we reach a point where we've gone as far as we can go. And then we settle on that. Everyone has contributed. Everyone has been given something to think about. Everyone has been a part of the process. And therefore, and it is not a question of you're right, you're wrong, boom, boom. It's not that. It has to filter up so that other minds and voices and perspectives can come in. And then it's how do we synthesize these things? Not how do we censor them? How do we silence them? No. The most outlandish things must be offered because it's being thought by somebody, that person, individual, and we may say, oh my God. Many great advances took place because people thought those who thought them were nuts. So we have to be careful about that, huh? Okay. So next time we're going to go into, and I'm going to show you how Socrates then places these, and then we're going to go into the theological virtues, which is in your catechism, under that same section that goes there next, the faith, hope, and charity. But above all, when you get into the theological section in your catechism, the acquired virtues, that is, you get them on your own. But from the Christian standpoint, grace is always present there in the acquired virtues. Grace builds on nature. It's not simply a muscular Christianity or a muscular virtue where I'm going to do it by myself, etc. Grace is there. But it is in the theological virtues, which are called the infused virtues. Infused. They are placed in you as gifts from Almighty God into the soul. You don't acquire. I'm going to practice. You may be able to practice it after you get it, but it's not yours to get. It's not an achievement. It's a gift. It starts out as a gift. Now what you do with it, how you develop it and practice it, etc., that's where the development comes in. Huh? That's where the development comes in. But God gives faith, hope, charity. And those are infused virtues. They're not acquired. They come from God. And therefore, grace, sanctifying grace, is the predominant factor there. Does that mean we don't use then the acquired virtues? No. We keep in mind grace for the acquired virtues. We keep in mind the natural virtues or the acquired virtues in the practice of our faith. Hopefully, you are a prudent person in the practice of your faith. Otherwise, you become a fanatic. You become a nut. No. You don't want that. Or in temperance, you go on these crazy aesthetical practices. You don't eat. You're kneeling on rice. You have camel hair or oyster sacks on, and you're doing all of this, and so on and so forth like this. Okay. In special instances, yes, some of the saints did. But for the person who simply says, well, that's what I'm going to do. Or some people say, I'm going to withdraw from the world and I'm becoming a hermit. I'm becoming a hermit. Before you can become a hermit, and there are special instances, you have to go to you have to have your spiritual director involved. You have to bring it to the diocese to have it recognized, etc. Because you do have people who want to be hermits for whatever reason. You have to find that out. And then because there is a special role, special place, and there is a ministry of hermits for prayer. Is that why you got to realize all? You don't just declare yourself a hermit and go find a cave somewhere. It doesn't work that way. Why? Because we want to be prudent and temperate. You have some people who just are so romantically involved with all of this, and they're up there. No, the first rule of sanctity is sanity. Not Hannity, but sanity. Okay, I want to definitely mention that. All right. So if you look over the theological virtues, and then we'll connect them to Plato, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle for their philosophical foundation. And we'll talk about, I'd like you to read about the theological virtues there, and the question of virtues and grace, which I asked you to look at anyway. But if you have any questions or observations about these, I think that would be important, and we can start then doing that, and then moving on to other dimensions of where we are. Okay? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Almighty and gracious God, we offer you glory, praise, and thanksgiving for your time together. The gift of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, please grant us your gifts, that we may bear the fruits of your gifts in those parts of the world that we touch, that we may enrich the church founded by you, O Jesus. May we serve each day. Please grant us your grace and peace, your blessing through the night in our sleeping and waking. And if it be your will, please grant us the gift of a new day, that we may love you more deeply, serve others more Christ-like,